Hello everyone, good morning. We're starting one more October weekend. It's Saturday morning today, and we have a busy day ahead of us. By the way, what do you think about my abominable book club beanie? It's so comfy actually. Wow, I cannot not go off topic. The plan for today is I'm having a couple of friends over. We have these annual tradition where we have a spooky night together. They are not into the scary stuff at all. So I have some movie options for them to choose from. I have a super mild category and a slightly scary category. I think in the mild category we have Casper, obviously. I'm kind of hoping they will pick that because it's in my movie watch list. And the other options I think are the Haunted Mansion and Coraline, or can't remember right now. I'm sure there was something else. And in the slightly spooky, I've suggested A Haunting in Venice, The Craft, or Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which, I mean, technically is for kids, so shouldn't be too spooky. We'll see what they choose, but I'm going to do some baking, some cooking. There's a lot going on, so I have to get going. Oh, plus I need to kind of tidy up and slightly maybe decorate the area we're gonna be in, so yeah, a lot to do. So my cake is baked and my frosting is ready. I'm leaving it here for now because at 2 I'm going to my meeting with my writing critic group. So I think I'm gonna frost it once I'm back and the cake cooled off. So now I'm going to make these cinnamon sugar apple puff pastry rings that are super popular on TikTok. We'll see how that goes. Also, I have some cherry tomatoes roasting over there, and earlier, before I did the cake, I roasted some aubergine as well, because I'm going to make like little pizza pockets or pizza squares. This was definitely not as easy as they made it look on TikTok, but it's done and it looks good. So I'm just gonna cover it while I go to my critique group, and then I'll bake it when I'm back. I think I forgot to update you how the movie went with my friends. As you saw in the clip, they chose A Haunting in Venice and they loved it, and I'm really happy that they loved it. I loved it too, but I really wanted to pick the right film for them. So if you are someone or you know someone who wants to really get into the Halloween mood but they get really scared with horror movies, this is a top-notch recommendation. This is based on Agatha Christie's Halloween Party, so it does take place on Halloween night, and it's a Poirot mystery, so Poirot is the investigator. And I haven't read the book, but in the movie, he gets invited by an old friend who's a writer to attend a Halloween party they're throwing for an orphanage, and then stay in that house afterwards to be part of a seance. So the backstory is that the woman who owns the house used to have a daughter, but she died, and she wants to communicate with her. And that's why she's invited psychic to conduct this seance. And the writer invites Poirot because he's a skeptic. So she wants him to figure out how the psychic is faking communicating with the dead. So that's what happens. I love the visuals of it. It's all really dark and moody. And it's set in this old house in Venice. It's all very gothic. As I said, dark and ghostly. But you also have that little bit of a mystery. So it's super fun, super atmospheric. Perfect for the season, and I do highly recommend it. We're on our way to a pumpkin festival, basically in the middle of nowhere, and it's cold and rainy, so maybe I'll get murdered there or something. Don't know. Did find some Highland cows. Where's the other one? This absolutely looks like the start of a horror film. So I think that's where we're going with all the lights. So I don't think I said, but this festival is at a farm.
Look like Alice Cooper. Come, let's mix where Dracula sleeps in caskets, ready to bite some poor misfits. Putting on the ring.
Warning that you should stay away from this place. You see, here we once had the most beautiful farm, but now all you'll find here is ruin and terror.
It's pouring rain. Decomposing.
Cemetery.
The pet cemetery. Oh no! Okay, come on. I'm worried I'm gonna get scared. I'm going to attempt to do my Halloween nails. I got these gel nail strips, so basically you just put them on your nail and then cure them with a little UV light. I've never tried this before, so we'll see. Also, I really wanted to do this one, but I think these would look nice with longer nails and I've been biting at them. So I think I'm gonna do this one instead. It has these cute floral and skull, kind of like gothic design. I cannot guarantee success, so wish me luck. I thought this would look silly on my super short nails, but it's actually cute. Hello, it is the Sunday before Halloween, so Halloween's on Thursday. I had a really fun weekend. I guess by now I've already showed you some footage of my little trip to the pumpkin festival, but I am pretty tired, so today I'm just gonna have a chill afternoon. I'm gonna be reading Halloween Night by R.L. Stine. I thought this would be like a really light, kind of turn your brain off book. I just started it. The writing is not stellar, not gonna lie. It's a bit clunky and basic. And don't get me wrong, I love R.L. Stine and I actually think he can do better than this. So I don't know, maybe he was in a hurry or something. Anyways, this is about a teenage girl called Brenda and her cousin Hallie. She's staying at her house because her parents are going through a divorce. And Brenda knows that she should be nice to her cousin because she's going through like a difficult experience. But she just can't stand Hallie. She seems to be a little bit fake. And the worst thing is that now Hallie has stolen Brenda's boyfriend. That's just what happens in the beginning. So Brenda wants to get revenge. And I'm assuming she's gonna plan out something for Halloween. So I'll let you know what happens later. Happy Halloween! It is Monday today and it's the beginning of the Halloween week. I'm really excited. I have a lot of activities planned for this week. Also, let me just say, not only Halloween, but also Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead. So I'll be sharing some of that with you as well. I also realized I haven't shown you the progress I've done on my Halloween-a-thon game board. Honestly, it was just not very practical for me to film all the dice rolling clips and all of that. Last time we talked about books, I told you I had started the audiobook for The Anatomy Murders. I listened to 4 chapters of these and then decided to take a break. It's a very dense nonfiction book and I wanted to read some more Halloween stuff, so that's in pause for now. Not without saying that it's a really, really good book. I already talked a little bit about chapter 1, which gave some historical context on the demand for bodies to teach anatomy. And then the next chapters I read, going to some other really interesting topics. One was about immigration from Ireland to the UK, because if you didn't know, Burke and Hare, the 2 murderers, were Irish. And it was talking about the dire conditions that these workers faced here in the UK because there was no regular job market. So honestly, they couldn't be blamed for trying to find ways to supplement their income. Obviously, they can be blamed for killing people, but there really was a need to come up with ways to make extra money, which is also why they were running this kind of cheap hotel, which they then used to find people to kill. And then the next chapter talked a little bit more about Dr. Robert Knox, which was the main anatomist that bought bodies from these guys, and he was a real piece of work. He's not only famous for being an accomplice to these murders with no consequence at all, by the way, he was also famous for being the father of British racism at the time. So yeah, he was not a great person, and the chapter details the many opportunities he had to bring concerns about where the bodies were coming from and the amount of evidence that was there for him as a medical professional to know that something was wrong, and he didn't do anything, and as I said, he faced no consequences. So it really is a fascinating book, and I do recommend it if you are interested in some of the morbid history of Scotland. But as I said, I just wanted to move on to more Halloween-y stuff. The audiobook that I've started now is The Vanishing by Wendy Webb. I'm only about 15% through, and so far I have mixed feelings about it. The premise sounds absolutely amazing. It is about this woman who, for reasons I won't get into, kind of needs to disappear from her life, and she gets an offer to come to this remote house somewhere near the US-Canada border to live with a very famous horror writer. The way she's portrayed is kind of Stephen King levels of fame. But the interesting part is that she's pretending to be dead. Everyone thinks she's dead, but she's living in this house, and this woman goes to live with her. This book has an amazing prologue, which makes me think that prologues are really underrated, because in the past few months I've read some books with incredible prologues, so now I'm super into prologues. I know some people don't like them, but I think now I love them. Anyways, in the prologue, which happens in the house in the 1800s, there's this psychic and she's conducting a seance and something goes wrong. So that kind of gives a hint of what we're in for. The only problem I have with this book is that I'm not super a fan of the main character. Her name's Julia. She's also a writer, or an aspiring writer. I think that's the best way to describe it. But there is something off about her as a character. Sometimes she is extremely naive and not suspicious of things that are clearly weird, but then at other times she acts hyper rational, and some of the legends and stories that surround this house, she kind of makes fun of them and says oh well, those are obviously just stories, those things don't exist in real life. And I'm like, come on, you're supposed to be a writer, have some imagination. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then I finished this small novella, The Pale House Devil by Richard Cadre. I started talking about it last vlog. This is about two paranormal mercenaries that are out on a job. Something goes wrong in the job, and then they also kind of have to disappear. And that's how they end up at the Pale House, where they are tasked with getting rid of the thing that's haunting the house. I didn't love this as much as I wanted to. I was really excited at the beginning because I loved the main characters. The mercenaries, they truly are a team, and the fact that one is alive and the other one is an undead made their dynamic super interesting. They are incredibly lovable and funny, and I really wanted to go on an adventure with them. But then the whole thing felt too rushed for me, and I do love a short book, but I actually think this would have worked better as a full-length novel. They end up meeting a third character, and their dynamic was so weird. They all instantly became super attached to each other with no development, so it came across as really weird. And I think their dialogue and relationship was only always moving the plot forward and kind of telling the reader how to feel about them. So unfortunately, the character dynamics felt a bit empty to me. Other than that, the mystery and the story of the house was really cool, but I just wasn't invested in the characters, so the stakes didn't really feel very high. I did like the general style that the writer brought to the story, and I found out that he has a quite famous and successful series about a paranormal investigator, or actually some kind of occult detective, that has really great reviews and is supposed to be much more exciting than this one. So I actually might check that one out. Now that Halloween is in full force, I'm going to choose something super Halloween-y me from my pile of books, but I haven't decided what yet. And on a similar vein, I watched 2 super Halloween-y movies. The first one was a cult classic that I had never watched before, and now I'm in love. Obviously, I'm talking about Trick or Treat. This is described as an anthology movie, and if anything, I was a little bit disappointed that I wouldn't call that an anthology. It starts as disconnected stories, but they all come together. So to me, it's just kind of like a non-linear narrative. But after the initial disappointment, I really enjoyed the film. It's a lot of fun. It's not a masterpiece of cinema as an art, but it's so creepy and cute. Obviously, Sam has now become an iconic villain, and he kills with his little jack-o'-lantern lollipop, and it's so cute. All the storylines we follow are quite different from each other, different types of horror, and they are all super fun. There's not even much of a plot that I could spoil for you. It's just some creepy stuff that happens in the course of one Halloween night. So yeah, I won't say anything else. If you haven't watched it, go watch it now. The other movie I watched was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. If you remember, earlier this year, I started reading the book. To be fair, I've only read about a third of the first book, so I'm not like an expert in these stories or anything, but I thought the movie captured the general atmosphere of the book so well. And it starts during Halloween night, where these teenagers are out causing mayhem, you know, and then they go into this house in their town that is supposed to be haunted by the spirit of a girl. And this girl's super creepy because she supposedly killed some kids, but also her family kind of like hid her away in a dungeon in the basement, but she would talk to kids through the wall and read them scary stories that she had in a book. So these teenagers end up finding that book, and that's how they summon all these super creepy creatures that have become famous through the illustrations that are in the actual book. I had so much fun with this one. It's PG-13, so there's not a lot of violence or gore. So it's a very light-hearted, fun watch, and just perfect to put you in the spooky mood if you don't want to be too scared. And I say too scared because it's definitely creepy. I loved how they did all the creature design, and it does have some images that will stick in your brain. I think that is all I have for now, and I'll see you later. Hi guys! Happy Halloween! The day has arrived. I hope you're having fun. Unfortunately, I am coming down with something, I think maybe a cold. To be completely honest, I haven't gotten much rest lately with all the excitement going on. I am wearing this super cute pumpkin jumper. And I did have to go to work, so I'm really tired. So I think we're just gonna have a cozy night in. Before I start reading Halloween, I wanted to talk about Halloween Night by R.L. Stine because I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. It's definitely not like a masterpiece. I think I mentioned before that the writing's not only really simple but kind of repetitive. I even think the execution, like the way the story was told, wasn't the best, but I just love the concept so much. It's basically about this teenage girl whose cousin has come to live at her house because her parents are going through like a really rough divorce, but she hates this cousin and she's convinced that the cousin is playing tricks on her and like purposefully trying to ruin her life. At the same time, this girl and 2 of her friends are doing an assignment for school in which they have to write a murder mystery, which is a super cool assignment, and I wish my homework had been like that in school. So just for jokes, they decide to plot killing this girl's cousin. But then you start to question whether it's just an assignment or they actually want to do it. And that's when things start to get a little bit psychological horror. I think if this was modernized, because it's very much of its time. So with some adjustments, these would make an amazing movie that could highlight toxic female friendships and toxic female dynamics that teenage girls go through. It could also slightly fall under the unhinged woman trope, but in this case be unhinged teenage girl. And then obviously the whole story takes place leading up to Halloween, and during Halloween night where the murder plot is supposed to happen, there's a costume party, so people are wearing costumes, you don't know who's who. As I said, I think that very interesting things could be done with this little book, and even though it's not the best piece of writing, I had such a blast with it. And if you're open to trying something like this, I would highly recommend this one. I had so much fun. Hi guys! So it's November 1st today, which means Halloween is over. But I'm Mexican, which means we still have stuff to do. To start with, I want to share one of my favorite traditions for Day of the Dead, which, by the way, a lot of people say Dia de los Muertos, and that's fine. But I think that's more common in the US, actually. In Mexico, I've always just called it Dia de Muertos. But anyways, we have this traditional bread that we eat this time of year. It's kind of like a brioche bun with orange essence, and then it's covered in sugar, and it's shaped like this because it's supposed to represent like this little thing. It's supposed to be a skull, and then these are supposed to represent the bones of the dead. So obviously in Mexican culture, we bond a lot over food, and that is also the case when we're trying to bond with our dead loved ones. So yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy these now with my coffee, and I'll come back later to tell you about the book I read this morning, because it was about the Day of the Dead. Hi everyone, it is the 2nd of November, which means it's officially the last day of my spooky festivities. Obviously, we stay spooky all year long, but you know, the rest of the world doesn't necessarily see it like that. So today I'm off to the Edinburgh Horror Festival. We booked tickets for 3 events. One of them is a seance show. It's not a real seance. I think it's just like theater performance. But it says it has audience participation, so I don't know, that could be fun. And then we're doing a storytelling show, I think from an Australian storyteller, and the stories are supposed to be about some experiences he had out in the Australian wilderness. And finally, we're going to horror stand-up comedy. I don't know how much I'll be able to show you, because usually in performances like these you're not allowed to film, but if I can get a little sneak peek just for you to see what it was like, I'll insert that footage here. So I just wanted to pause the video for a little bit because I didn't have a chance to film as much as I wanted, both at the show and in general in the events, because they were very crowded and I just don't like getting my camera up on people's faces. So just to give you a super brief summary, the seance show was super fun. It was a magic show, but it was all set up as if we were doing all kinds of like different kinds of summonings. I actually went on stage and summoned a ghost child. It was really fun. I had a blast. And then we watched the storytelling show. So it was an Australian guy who wrote the show and performed it himself, but this is not at all stuff that happened to him. It was a fictional story about 3 Australian criminals that are like in prison and they escape. So they have to go through the wilderness and they encounter something really horrifying there. It was an awesome show, especially for like a one-man show. That must be so hard, but it was so eerie, so spooky, and the acting was so engaging. So that was amazing. Unfortunately, we didn't make it to the horror comedy. I was really tired. I do struggle with chronic fatigue, and right around this time of year when it starts to get so dark, I just really struggle, so I couldn't do it. I had to go home and sleep, but that's perfectly fine. I had an awesome time, and I think as you gathered from the clips, I went to a couple of events that also hosted like a little marketplace for spooky local businesses, which are great opportunities to support my local artists, my local craft makers, and it's a great opportunity for me to get just some cute stuff. So I thought we would do a little haul. These aren't necessarily Halloween things, as I said, it's just things that appeal to my aesthetics and in general, things I like. Let's see what we have here. So first, from the first market, I got a sticker. There were so many stickers, but I just chose this one, which is adorable. Then I got a ring. I love getting jewelry from these places because it's always so unique. This one's so cool. It's this eye. I guess it matches my pillow. And obviously, if you've seen my intro, you know that I love these all-seeing eye imagery. Then I got this gorgeous thing that I'm so excited about. It's a tea light holder with like stained glass detailing. This maker had so much cute stuff. I'm definitely going on their Etsy shop. Actually, if I can find the Etsy shops or the Instagram profiles of any of these creators, I will link them below so you can have a look-see. Look at these! It's like this little ghosty, and then you put your tea light right here and it just glows so beautifully. I'm so in love with this. And then from the other market, first I already ate them, but I got these 3 cookies and I see them going around on Instagram and I really wanted them, so I was like so excited to see this baker there at the market. They were almost too cute to eat, but I did eat them and they were also very tasty. And finally I got a necklace. So it's like a little vial and it's actually filled with a bunch of tiny forged bones, animal bones. So yeah, this is a bit on the more morbid side, but I love it. It's a little memento mori moment. And I guess since we're here, I thought I would just show you the last couple of pieces of Halloween decor that I got from like the regular shops. As I said, these are from their Halloween line, but it's just my year-long decor. From Next, I finally got the ghosty blanket. I'll just insert a clip because it's too big to hold up. But it's really cozy and has these little fluffy ghosties all over and then these little ghosty tassels in the end, and it's just adorable and super cozy. And then from TK Maxx, I got this cushion that is just so gorgeous. It's all beaded, spidered and a spider web, slightly sparkly. It looks so nice. I'm so happy with this purchase. And finally, I got a candle. This is a funny story because I saw it on the website and I thought it was so cute. As you'll see, it's a skull-shaped candle, but I just thought it was gonna be like the size of skull. And then I went to pick up the order at the store and I get given this huge, super heavy box and I'm like, what the hell did I order? And then I unwrap this candle and it's so heavy, but also it's like the size of my actual skull. It's gorgeous. It's really well done. I couldn't believe it because it was also only like 12 pounds. I think it was incredibly cheap. That's why I thought it was tiny. But yeah, it's super cool. It is pumpkin rum smell. And yeah, it's actually delicious. That is all. So let's go back to the other Michelle and finish up this vlog. Bye! Other than that, yesterday I found the perfect short story to read. It's called Dia de los Slashers by V. Castro. And this takes place during a combined party for Halloween and Day of the Dead. And we follow our main character, Tula. She's going to this party with her friend. And Tula's quite an interesting character. She is obviously a bit of a loner. She considers herself a weirdo, maybe someone who never quite fit in. And we know that she's into this guy, but I think that guy is in a relationship already, so he's unavailable and she's just trying to get over it. And then we get to the party, and as the title would suggest, people start getting slashed. And during this journey, we also find some very interesting backstory about Tula and learn a bit more about who she is I had a lot of fun with this one. I love a themed slasher, and this one was really well done, obviously incorporating elements from Halloween celebrations and Day of the Dead celebrations. But honestly, at the end of the story, I felt a bit annoyed because I found the main character to be really unlikable, and I think that's fine. I think she was supposed to be somewhat unlikable, or at least make you feel conflicted about how you feel about her. So I think in that way it was very successful. The other thing is that I actually think that writing horror short stories is quite hard because you have to fit a whole story in a small amount of words, and I actually ended up thinking that this would have worked better even as a novella. I wanted a little bit more character development. Well, actually not character development, because I think the character was there. I just didn't have enough time for me to get to know the character and kind of like process all the little bits of information that I was receiving about her. But anyways, I would say that if you're looking for a really quick holiday read, this one will definitely do the trick. And lastly, and to close out this series of vlogs, I wanted to share one more Mexican tradition with you. It is very common for Mexican people during Day of the Dead or during the month leading up to it, write poems for each other, and these poems are called calaveritas, which means little skulls. And there are very specific requirements for these poems. Obviously, one is in terms of like structure and what lines to rhyme, but more importantly, there are thematic rules about this. So you're supposed to write them about someone else, usually a loved one, but sometimes they can also be used to make fun of people, like politicians. So they are highly customized. You have to really think about this person and about their key characteristics, and that's why they're often considered an expression of love or appreciation. And they have to involve death. But not only the concept of death, but death personified. And it's usually depicted as a skeleton, like a woman skeleton that walks around and talks, and at the end of the poem comes for you. So I guess you could say it's someone writing a poem about how someone else is going to die, which sounds really morbid and mean, but as I said, you do it out of love, and it's also like a gentle, light-hearted reminder that death comes for all of us. So that's just how we Mexicans cope with this. So, because I do love and appreciate you all very much, I wrote one for you this year, and I'm going to read it to you now.
During a dark November night, Ted was at home, bored on her own. She watched the moon as it shone bright, wishing she was not all alone. Went on YouTube to check for news, but turned to videos about books, hauls, TBRs, vlogs and reviews that gave her shudders, chills and spooks. Everyone here, they seem so nice, she thought, wishing she was their friend. Could she get them to pay the price? To befriend death, their lives must end. All creators and subscribers will end up dead later today. No point trying to avoid her, it's time for us all to decay. In the underworld, together, we'll have infinite reading time, and we can stay friends forever. Oh, the afterlife is sublime.
I hope you liked it. I had a lot of fun doing this series of vlogs, and I had an amazing holiday season, even though I did have to cancel my plans for yesterday because I was too tired and a little bit sick, but I survived. I am ready to go watch my shows now, and I'll still be here watching horror movies and reading horror books and talking to you. I hope you had a lovely Halloween season. Leave me a comment telling me what your favorite part was, and I'll see you soon. Bye!